Are you afraid that no matter how much you work on your game, that it's not good enough? Or do you feel like there's no way that you're ever going to reach the end? Do you look at every part of your game and think, this should be better. I am nowhere near where I need to be in this project? Well, let me hit you up with a straight fact. If you believe that you will never finish your game, you are right. Congratulations on saying for the intro after that. Yay. Okay. So, what the heck do I mean by that? Because maybe that sounds really rude, or you're like, how dare you, Josh? I want inspiration, not de-inspiration. I wouldn't blame you, because de-inspiration sucks. It kind of does. And here's what I mean. There's a saying, and I was looking up, where does this come from? And I'm not sure who it originated from, but it's this idea that you never finish, you just run out of time. We used it in college for animation projects. I've heard it used for film, for writing. Heck, I was looking it up just recently, just again, to see if there was a source that I could find of this quote. And people were using it in regards to accounting. Like, this is just this is used throughout, but I would say that it is especially true for artistic fields. And maybe that's just because I worked in the entertainment industry for my whole life, and so I'm just like, well, duh, it applies here and nowhere else, because this is what I know. But the thing is that you can always add more polish. So let's say that you're writing, you could always spend more time crafting your wording. Let's say that you're doing why don't I talk about game dev, since we're talking game dev? Obviously you can do writing and game dev, but anyway, if you are writing code, you could always make your code better. You could always make it faster. You could always make it more readable. You could always make it more flexible. You could always, if you're looking at design, you could always add more features. You could always add more items. You know what? If you're looking at the art, you could always add more polish. You could always make it a little bit more finesse. You could always see if you could support more devices. Like, hey, you know what? Well, we support the iPad and the iPhone. Maybe we should support Android tablets too. You know, you could always do more. You could always add more polish, put in more work, put in more time. And the fact is that you will never finish your game. You just run out of time. And so that is not to say that you cannot create something incredible, that you cannot create an incredible game. But if your goal is to wait until you feel like it's done, until you feel like everything's in place, until you feel like it is hit the mark completely, you will never reach that place. And you're right, you will never finish your game. Now, how do you handle this? How do you handle this? We obviously want to release good games, and there's a level to where there is releasing an unplayable game. That's a bit different from releasing a game that perhaps is buggy or is not at an acceptable level for sharing. Well, one thing that I just think about is that I was just a part of College Jam 3, woo woo, and we have College Jam 4 going on right now, by the way. Where is that tab? I had a tab for it, but you know what? I'll just open up another tab because I can do that because I know the interwebs. Okay, so we have College Jam 4 going on right now, and so you can join that up. We basically end up creating these games together. We put them in bundles and we sell them to help raise money for kids in hospitals, which is really cool. Anyway, as part of the team, I was doing the programming. I was the project lead. That makes me really important sounding. And then I was working with an artist, Colleen Cat, and then Ahmed Hamed was helping out with the with some of the design and some of the balancing. And so, yeah, I'll just show you what we got here. Let's see here. So this is immediately where the game starts. So you might be like, oh man, where's the title screen? And we don't have a title screen. It's a game jam game. I've been a part of multiple game jams, and so and also I was very limited on time on how much I could put towards this game. So on my end, I'm like, this is great. We brought in the artist halfway through the jam, so it's not reasonable to expect them to have put in a month's time, and everyone's got their own schedules anyway. So yeah. Oh yeah, and then also the designer was stuck in Florida during the hurricane. So yeah, we all had a bunch of stuff going on. And so, like, honestly, I'm happy that we got anything out there, and I'm really happy with the quality that we got. Yeah, that's kind of important to mention, is that the designer was in Florida. Yeah, he's okay. He's fine, which is great. But yeah, okay, so here I hit spacebar to start, and these dandelion seeds come around, grab the dandelions. I love the art. I love the art that Colleen created for this. And then as far as trying to balance it out, I tweaked it a little bit, and I hope I didn't destroy the balance, but I took some of the numbers that Ahmed threw in and finished them up. And so this is actually, I think I mentioned it in a previous video, but this is based on a concept that I had many, many years ago when I was younger. The difficulty gradually just increases a little bit over time. But you're trying to grab these, throw them before they end up getting their seeds, and the seeds fly everywhere. So to just let you see what that starts to look like, they start to, you know, spread and all that. Now, looking at this, there are 100 things that you can immediately know. Well, okay, maybe 100. I don't know how many you noticed, but obviously there's no movement animation. Okay, there's no movement animation. You know, like the positioning of the dandelion seeds on the dandelions is a little bit iffy. You know, maybe they should be like fluttering or shaking a little bit as they're fluttering around. You know, maybe we should have adjusted the difficulty curves a little bit, or maybe I made it too hard. I hope not. Maybe we should have had an actual title screen. Maybe it shouldn't be that if you're smashing the spacebar, it immediately restarts the game rather than letting yourself see your final score. That's something that I feel really bad about. Maybe we should have had it so that the fence was actually a wall rather than, you know, I can show you how we can break the game right here. Okay, so dandelion, it just kind of, there's like a little cliff here. You don't actually throw it over the fence. It's just actually an edge that you can kind of see there's a dandelion off to the side that should not be there. And there's always things that could be better. Now, I am very happy with what we accomplished in this time because like I've been a part of multiple single day game jams, and so figuring out, okay, how much time can you put towards that and focus on it, and working with like 2 programmers, maybe 3, and then designer, dedicated artist, a dedicated composer, like we were able to create something that was about this level. So with another programmer, which that's huge. One of the things, and this might be opinion, but from what I've seen in game jam games, you want to have twice as many programmers as artists, or else you're just not going to get all the art in. That's just a fact. That's been my experience anyway. And so you always, there's a balance there, and then you always want to make sure that you have a good scope and all that. And so to me, I'm the only programmer, and I'm super busy, and I'm helping provide coaching for the other projects. Like, I'm extremely happy with what we accomplished. Now, it's never finished. You just run out of time. We could go back to this project, and we've talked about it a little bit. And okay, yeah. There's also a bug where if you click off of it and click back on, it just kind of freaks out. And rather than continuing from where it left off, I think it's using the real world time. That's a mistake. That's a really bad mistake on my part. But anyway, oh yeah, there's more dandelions. That's beautiful. I love that the sounds play so much that it just stops the music. Anyway, so the thing is, you have to decide what done looks like for you. And that may be that you don't decide what done looks like. You decide when you're done. You decide, this is when I'm done with this task. This is when I'm done with this game. And I have to release. At some point, you gotta release. There's gotta be a time, or else you're just gonna continue on perpetually and be very sad when you're like, why isn't the game finished? Well, because you didn't finish it. Because you decided that you were not in a finished state. And the truth is that there is no such thing as a magical, perfect, finished state. There is better, and there is worse, and there is more polished, absolutely. But anybody who has watched a lot of speedrunners, or even a little bit, knows that every game can be broken, no matter how polished. Even if it has that amazing Nintendo polish on it, which, it still has bugs in it that you can exploit. It still has problems. You can still find ways to tank the frame rate if you get into the right position. You can find ways to clip through walls. There's always going to be problems. There's always things that could be better. And so I think that for some people it might seem kind of scary because there's a fear of, what if I'm just leaving it at not good enough? And there is a very tricky position where it could be that there's a little bit of polish that takes your game from a 7 to an 8, or from an 8 to a 9, or from a 9 to a 10. And so sometimes there's these very minor things that have a huge impact. And so making sure that you account for those is really important. But I guess you just sit on this point. You will never finish your game. You'll just run out of time. And you decide when time has run out. And so if you're finding yourself stuck on the game, or stuck on a part of a game, set a deadline. And also, you can set a minimum for, this hits the target. There is a case to where it's like, you know what, like, we're not hitting our minimum targets, we have to delay. Like, there's a reason why games do delay. They're not just like, well, we just ran out of time, so we're going to release something that's just straight up not fun. I mean, there are unfortunate situations where that has to happen. And by the way, when studios have to do that, they know. The devs aren't stupid. They know they're releasing a bad game, and they are not. Like, it sucks, and it happens. Yeah. I think I'll just be repeating myself at this point. You're not going to finish your game. You're just going to run out of time. Figure out when you run out of time and roll with it. And yeah, it's hard because I am a programmer, and so I always want to give the exceptions, but I think that that's a good general rule to live by, especially so thinking about if you are a starting dev working on your early games. This is especially true because you're going to grow way faster if you make more games than if you sit on your old ones. At least that's generally going to be. I have to be a programmer and be like, well, here's the percentage of times where it's not true. Yeah, so if you are starting off in your game dev journey, I would strongly recommend that you focus on building more games rather than spending more time on one game, because that's going to help you grow, and that finishing is going to help you build confidence. And so I really recommend for starting game devs doing a bunch of game jams. And by a bunch, that could mean like 4 game jams, 5 game jams. It depends on the length of them, but I've done a lot of one-day game jams, and they're a lot of fun, and they're a great way to stretch yourself a bit, learn something new, and those are some of my game jams. And then also I did my own mini game jam where I did a bunch of little games, and they help you grow, they help you learn new things. They're just really valuable. So rather than waiting for your game to be done and putting yourself through development hell that you don't have to, set a minimum acceptable level. Maybe you're already at that level, and if you are, or if you can see that you would hit that shortly, set yourself a deadline and let that be done, and let yourself move on with your life. And also get feedback from other people, because other people can tell you if you're worried, oh no, is this done enough? Other people can tell you, they can give you input and feedback on that, because when you are so in it yourself, another thing is that you become so tunnel visioned and you don't see the good in the game anymore because you're so used to what you're working on. Oh man, I have been working on this clipping bug for the last 4 weeks. Okay, guess what? Most people, it's possible that everyone else will encounter that. Maybe that's that big of a bug, but it's also possible that nobody else will encounter that, or that very few people will, and that a lot of people can start telling you what they actually care about in the game. Hey, the controls feel too slippery. Oh, if you spent the time on that instead, you could have a bona fide hit on your hands versus worrying about this one bug. So I'm just repeating myself now. Feel free to let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to drop them in the comments. Dropping your questions in the comments, I guess that makes sense. If you like this video, like it. If you want to subscribe, then do it. Why wouldn't you if you want to? I don't know, maybe it's because you're watching on your TV like I do, and it really sucks to try to subscribe in that case, and I apologize. If you do, though, that's still pretty cool. My name is Josh Paulson, in case you forgot, because it's right at the top of my screen, and I don't know why I would need to acknowledge that, because you probably wouldn't forget, because it's right at the top of my screen. Anyway, take care, and I wish you the best with your own game dev journeys.